In this section, we're going to talk about the innovation of a blockchain. What is the actual problem that a blockchain is solving? What is sort of the computer issue that computer scientists were dealing with for many years that only was solved with the advent of a blockchain? And this first occurred in 2008. There's a message that comes across this mailing list that had a lot of computer scientists and cryptographers that were on this list. And someone by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto, who was unknown, people had no idea who this was, he sends a message saying, I've been working on a new electronic cash system that's fully peer-to-peer with no trusted third party. And he sends along sort of this 8-page document that details exactly how this system works. So he uses this term peer-to-peer, meaning that here I've developed something where there is no central operator. And what he's referring to in terms of a digital cash system is that many of these cryptographers, they were trying to come up with some kind of system of money that does not rely on a government. Many of them were libertarians, and they wanted to come up with some alternative to our everyday government-issued currency. And many of the cryptographers, they thought, even in theory, it's not possible to do this without some central operator, that someone still needs to sort of rise above the fray or have some extra powers over everyone else. So Satoshi does get some criticism. One of the cryptographers by the name of James Donald, he replies back and he's like, well, the Byzantine generals problem is the classic hard problem of distributed data processing. And he's referring to this whimsical problem that has existed for 40 years or so that describes the issue that you run into when you have a distributed system. And the way the problem is described is that if you imagine you have a bunch of generals, they're surrounding this medieval city, and they want to take over this city. They want to attack and get this city. However, they'll only be successful if they all attack at the same time. So the night before, they're passing messages by courier to each other. There may be a general on one side that passes a message saying, let's go at 4 a.m. General on the other end is passing a note saying, let's go at 5 a.m. And now you have these two conflicting times out there. And some generals may side with one time over the other. And there's no way to get them all to converge on a single time, which is also known as, in the blockchain world or distributed network world, it's known as achieving consensus. There's no way to get them all to agree on some single thing to do. Because as soon as some of them might go to one side, you may have others that are now pushing towards the other direction. And because there's some time delay in getting these messages across, you can't really get them all to converge. Satoshi answers this criticism, and he says the proof of work chain is the solution to the Byzantine generals problem, meaning that I have actually answered this. I've explained how to solve this using this mechanism known as proof of work, which we're going to get into in the future. But Satoshi is just saying, well, proof of work, which I have described, is the answer. And the reason why solving this problem is so important with regard to creating a digital cash system is because the way it manifests itself in a payment system is in another variant of this problem, which is known as the double spend problem. In the double spend problem, you have some participant, let's call him Tom, and Tom has some digital form of currency. We'll call it Bitcoin. So Tom has 3 Bitcoins, and that's all he owns. He has 3 Bitcoins, and he issues a message to the system saying to the whole network, I want to send my Bitcoins to Mike. At the same time, he issues another message saying, I want to send my Bitcoins to Lisa. So maybe he's doing that maliciously, maybe it's not intentional, maybe it's just somehow this 2 messages get broadcast at the same time. The issue is that we can only honor one of them. It's very similar to writing 2 checks for $1,000 and you only have $1,000 in your bank account. One of those checks is going to bounce. But in a centralized system, in that case of the checks, your bank will just choose one or the other to go with. The bank will say, OK, let's accept this check, reject the other one. But now we're in this decentralized system. How do we decide which of these two options to go with. Do we allow Tom to send the Bitcoins to Mike or to Lisa? We don't care which we go with, we just can't do both. It's very similar to the Byzantine generals. It's like we don't care if we attack at 4 or at 5, we just all have to agree on the same state. And that's what Satoshi is saying, that the proof of work solution solves this issue and allows the whole network to all agree on one single operation or one single thing. And in this way, we can keep everyone in sync. This breakthrough is really the grand innovation of blockchain technology, and it's something that was only solved when Satoshi published this paper in 2008, that published this system, and also with the advent of the Bitcoin network in 2009.